Bazooka versus Nuhn and their boats. So Nuhn patented their lagoon crawler. Bazooka Farmstar comes along, makes her own. Nuhn says, hey, hold it here. This is our design, and we're going to sue you. So they did what's called an inter-parties review. This was filed by Bazooka. Bazooka says, no, Nuhn, your patent isn't valid because of X, Y, and Z. This was filed on April 6th of 2024. It was a hearing before the United States Patent and Trademark Office. There was 3 judges. And this is a really fascinating document. It shows kind of the background of the invention and what they're arguing over. This is 69 pages long. It was the decision, or it was written by the Patent Trial and Appeals Board.
So, introduction, part A, background and summary.
So this is telling us that it's filed by Bazooka Farmstar. They want this inter-parties review.
They're the ones getting sued. They have the potentially infringing boat.
So this is a sort of an expensive process. This is one of 3 different inter-party reviews, plus they have various lawsuits. If you're a minnow, you have a patent and you're a minnow. Let's say Bazooka's a minnow and Nuhn comes after them and they're a shark. You might as well fold and just not fight with them because it's expensive. Here we have 2 sharks going at each other. They're similar sized companies, so they have similar budgets. One article I found, it said if there's an inter-parties review, that means that commercially it's a valuable product because nobody does it if there's not a lot of money hinged on selling the stuff. Who the owners are: Bazooka Farmstar, it's Eldon C. Stutzman, and Stutzman's Holdings. Nuhn is Nuhn Holdings Ltd. Kind of interesting. This shows you who the real owners are. They have patent 835, that's named as 835, 557, and 425, and then also 708. So these are all different patents that they are involved with their boat. Level of ordinary skill. A big part of this argument is what is ordinary skill. So Nuhn has their boat that they're saying, well, we patented this with the hydraulic wheels and a pump to squirt out of a nozzle. Bazooka says, hold it here. We found a patent, which is pucks, of a boat, a manure boat that squirts liquid. We also found another patent. So there's this Braham patent. It's a boat with wheels that move. So they said, well, if a person of ordinary skill would take Puck's patent and this Braham patent and you stick the 2 together, that's a boat with powered wheels. So that means Nuhn's patent is invalid. You cannot take 2 previous patents and stick the 2 together and make your own. It has to be a new idea.
And a new idea, how much skill level does it need to come up with a new idea? The new idea. The people that are getting sued over their infringing boat, they say a ordinary skill would be somebody has a couple years of college. The people that are saying you stole my idea, they say, well, we're a farmer. It would be the average person of ordinary skill. A farmer might not know how to combine 2 boats into one. And the people that are getting sued say no. And any engineer could combine 2 boats into one. If you could combine 2 boats into one, the patent is unenforceable.
So in a patent, you have your claims. What's unique about it? Bazooka Farmstar is challenging a total of roughly 40 claims, and a lot of it hinges on claim number 1. So we'll look at a few of what their claims are.
Part of it in the patent, it said they had manure movers and manure pump, but they didn't define manure. So when you're patenting, you got to define everything. In here it says they agreed that manure is liquids with some solids along.
But they also have an argument over whether sewage is considered manure, because Bazooka found a patent from, I think, over in Korea somewhere, of a dredging machine that you could ride on, you could remotely control it, and it pulled solids off the bottom. And Nuhn says, no, that doesn't apply because that's not manure. That's sewage. That's something different.
The court decided manure is liquids with solids along, so it all kind of ran together as the same concept.
So they brought in several other patents. So this was a carrier, a remote-controlled carrier. Looks like a case skid loader. And this was some sort of military firefighting and going into hazardous locations.
And what would this do?
So this one is based off the fact that it's remote-controlled and it's got hydraulic-driven wheels. The claim for this talks about 8 wheels. And it's a hinged has a hingedly connected second vehicle.
It's making a tank out of your old skid loader. I'm not sure how far you're going to go trekking through the woods with a skid loader, but it was patented, so it counts.
Here's another one. This is a dredging. He looks happy, doesn't he? He even got a sunshade.
So this is a boat. So if you're patenting a manure sucking boat, you got to make sure there's no other patents out there that might suck liquids with manure in, or you have to redefine manure. They did not define manure closely enough. So this is actually getting called, sewage is getting called lumped in with manure as far as what's patentable. So it's kind of hurting the claim so far.
They also brought in an expert witness, Dr. Winkle. He's also expensive. I don't know what that costs, but he was part of explaining the differences between sewage and manure and all that good stuff, and also skill level.
Fundamentally, this patent is about what is manure and what skill level do you have in order to make a manure boat out of two existing boats.
Here's another floating boat. Just looking at this would look like a Dota pump. I don't know if it is or not, but that's what it looks like. But he's got a boom, he's got a submersible pump, he's got a nozzle to agitate. And he's an operator. Look at that. He even got his hip waders on in case he has to crawl out.
It's got wheels on.
It's got wheel. There's a wheel there and a wheel there.
Oh, and there's floater tanks. Got a boom on the front. It sucks slop off the bottom and squirts it on the bank. And then the argument, if you had ordinary skill, could have you drove that thing in a manure pit? That's part of the deal here, man. So, hey, you farmers on here, if you had ordinary skill, could have you drove that thing in a manure pit and squirt manure?
So there's also this liquid manure mover versus liquid manure pump. And I think part of it was actually a technical mistake on Nuhn's part in their patent. In one place they called it a manure mover, another they called it a manure pump. That's creating a headache for them because it's talking about different things. So it allows you to split the claims apart. So the idea is when you're trying to get someone else's patent thrown out, is you split the claims apart and you pick them apart one piece at a time. And after a while you got a pile of rubbish that doesn't mean anything anymore. One place it was called a liquid manure mover, and another place it was called a manure pump.
We think the concept was Bazooka, to avoid infringing, they put a propeller out the back of their boat. Nuhn had just squirter nozzles, but they patented manure mover. So now does that mean putting a propeller out the back, is that infringing? You have to really define a manure mover. It seems in here a manure mover end up being a pump, would be more like a pump, something that would have the spinner and a housing around it. So a spinner without it isn't really a manure mover. So that was another problem for Nuhn. This is part of the argument over manure movers. So here they're pointing out, here's a fluid pump, here's a conduit, and there's a nozzle. Because a manure mover, you'd have to pressurize it and squirt it somehow. Just having a free spinning propeller won't necessarily move manure.
So when it really comes down to it, you got to be really careful on your descriptions, and everything needs to be clearly defined, because that was a big question, is what is, so a manure mover, also what is a manure pump? And they decided that it's a pump, it's a conduit, and it's a nozzle. So that's what a manure pump consists of.
And a manure mover has to meet the same definition because they decided it's the same thing. So if you didn't have a conduit after your propeller on the back of your boat, it's not a manure mover. They also got into heebie-jeebies over wireless remotes. Nuhn tried to patent a wireless control of the boat, and that was one of the infringing things for Bazooka. But they found out there are plenty of other remote controls on boats for the sewage industry, and ordinary skill should say that if you can sit on it and run it, it's not a dramatic invention to add wireless controls anymore.
Okay, so here petitioner, which is Bazooka Farmstar, is saying that Nuhn's patent claims 1 through 40, they're not patentable, and it's because of Puck and Braham, these two previous patents. When you go through, the petitioner, Bazooka, makes her argument, Nuhn, the patent holder, makes her counter argument, and then the court gives their opinion. And as you go through this, the court, my farmer corn cob college opinion is that the court is siding with Bazooka Farmstar.
They got this patent, but it's appearing like it's not really that enforceable.
So they say that we can take Puck's floating manure agitator. So see here, you see how Puck, he worded it a little different.
Puck's floating manure agitator has a power source coupled to a liquid manure pump. So you can't patent that part anymore. And it's capable of handling both solids and liquid material. That means it applies to manure or liquid with solids along. It's not so patentable for other people now.
So this an illustration from Puck's patent, and one of the arguments is that his pump. So this is his pump. He's using like a Cornell high pressure pump, and they say, well, that's not in the manure; it's above the manure. However, that's still a manure pump. This is Bryham's patent. It's actually a inflatable craft, but it has wheels that can hinge and flip up or flip down. So if you combine Puck and Bryham,
Puck didn't have wheels on. Nuhn came along, we take Puck's idea and put wheels on and patent it. But unfortunately for them, there was somebody else had wheels on the bottom of their boat already. And especially wheels that were hydraulically driven.
one of ordinary skill in the art would have been motivated to add the powered steerable wheels of Bryham to Puck's boat to solve the problem users, especially single users, face in launching and retrieving the Puck boat. There's also an argument over the filing dates of particular documents that the patent owner, which would be Nuhn, says that the petitioner, which is Bazooka, they waited until after Nuhn filed their documents, and then they were able to review them until they filed theirs, and that was unfair. The end result was that that argument was denied because it didn't matter. It appears like Bazooka is on stronger ground than Nuhn based off of this document and my 8th grade education interpretation of it. This document is like 69 pages long. There's 2 more of these that had been done previously. This started in like 2020 or 2022, and they've been suing each other over various things. There's several lawsuits, ongoing lawsuits to this. But they even had an argument over the wording of the document, that how it should be written about it being sealed. So there's a lot of lawyers getting paid well in this.
There was about 3 lawyers from each side listed at the bottom. The thing about patents, I enjoy reading patents as well. There was this company that years ago they made a radar detector, and they made a better way of calculating the speed for the policeman. And they patented real-time calculations with this new method. The original patent for real-time. Next company comes back, we put a 1/4 second delay in. Effectively, it's the same for the user, but for the patent, it's completely different. So that got thrown out. The other one was a herd manager and SCR. This is current products on the market as of 2024. SCR had a cow activity thing. It went on their neck. It had a microphone in, and it could tell how often the cow burped to know her rumination cycle. So you want to know when the cow's happy and healthy, it chews her cud more, and they used a microphone. A cow manager came along and found out that the cow's ears wiggle a different way when they are chewing their cud. So they put a motion sensor in their ear tag. Ooh, we can tell when the cow's chewing her cud too now. So the people with a microphone patent went and sued the people with the ear wobbling deal, and they promptly lost. But that did not prevent them from filing a suit in Chicago in about 2020 or 2018, somewhere in that time frame. Just because you have a patent or you got something patented, it still has to be unique in the long run. So that's what this all boils down to. You know, they're arguing over skilled in the art. Could 2 doofers make one out of these 2 other patents? And what is a manure pump? It's not even about the invention. It's all about the technicalities, because they're kind of on the edge. And if you read through this, this court is agreeing that this patent is not valid, but they said they're not going to keep it from going to court. So if you're involved in this, it's bend over and shell out till both of them are tired.
So the conclusion is, we build manure injection equipment. We don't do boats. It's fun to watch other people's public spats over it and the amount of money being wasted, but we build manure injectors, dragline equipment. If you're looking for low disturbance manure injection, we got the equipment for you. If you're a no-till farmer and you don't want your fields all torn up, we have the low disturbance. You can inject your manure and then go through with the corn planter without having to do additional tillage.